So, we've recently watched Michael Moore's Capitalism: A Love Story. In the movie, Michael Moore tries to shock the viewers into believing that capitalism is an unjust economic system. He pulls on the emotions of viewers to get them to believe that what he wants, but he doesn't really give a clear definition of what capitalism is. And because of this, he ends up criticizing things that aren't actually capitalism.
One of Moore's main topics in the movie is the financial crisis of 2008, where America's largest banks failed, thousands of homes were foreclosed, and private banks were bailed out by the government. The failure and bailout of the banks is not easy to concept to grasp, especially when you have Michael Moore explaining it.
It all started with financial regulation, government involvement in the economy, and rules and laws for banking. Then people like Alan Greenspan came along. Greenspan responded to the financial regulation of the government by promoting financial deregulation. He believed that banks should be able to operate as they wish without interference from the government.
So then, banks began to operate without government regulation. They began to practice subprime lending, making out loans to people who might have difficulty making the payments on time. Then, they buy insurance, so that if the people can't make the payments, the banks are covered by the insurance companies. Fine, their choice, go for it. But then,
The subprime loans were really, really bad. The interest rates and the mortgages were so high that the people could not make the payments. Then it was the insurance company's job to cover the banks. However, the debts and mortgages of so many subprime loans had piled up to a point where now the insurance companies could not cover the banks. The people were bankrupt, the insurance companies were bankrupt, and now the banks were bankrupt.
the banks called for a government bailout, in which the people's tax money would contribute to bailing out America's banks. Although Congress originally voted no to this bill, some behind-the-scenes deal was made, and the vote was now yes, despite what the people wanted.
The politician attempts to remedy the evil by increasing the very thing that caused the evil in the first place. This is a quote by classic liberalist Frederick Bastiat. He criticizes the effect government involvement has on the economy by focusing on its corrupt nature. This is illustrated in the film by the American banks when they called for the bailout.
Michael Moore tells us that all this is capitalism, that corporations being in and influencing government is capitalism. Well, it's not. That's corporatocracy. Corporatocracy is a system of government that serves the interest of and may be run by corporations and involves ties between government and business.
Sound familiar? Yeah. That's because what Michael Moore is criticizing is not capitalism, it's corporatocracy. When you have people like Goldman Sachs, guys head of the Federal Reserve, we aren't even talking about capitalism anymore. This is a whole different thing.
In a truly capitalist society, things should have gone like this, a downward spiral. The banks should have failed. In a capitalist society, people are responsible for the decisions they make. The banks chose to make out bad loans to people, and that's their own fault, so they should have failed. Instead, things went like this, a cycle. The banks ran to the government for help, when in the first place, they wanted to be free from government regulation.
A socialist might question capitalism with an argument similar to the message sent within William Temple's quote, "There cannot live a more unhappy creature than an ill-natured old man, who is neither capable of receiving pleasures nor sensible of conferring them to others." Though it may be immoral for classical liberals to not help the needy, it is also immoral to restrict an individual's freedom and take away what is rightfully his.
But unlike socialism, a capitalist society applies economic freedom. One does not need to contribute to those of lesser fortune. Every man is given equal opportunity to be prosperous. Lysander Spooner, a classical liberalist, expresses this classical liberal principle in this quote: "Man, no doubt, owes many other moral duties to his fellow men, such as to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, shelter the homeless, care for the sick, protect the defenseless, assist the weak, and enlighten the ignorant. But these are simply moral duties, of which each man must be his own judge, in each particular case, as to whether and how far he can or will perform them." Capitalism is not a system where you are legally obligated to help out the people who are less fortunate than you. Whether that is moral or not is up to the individual. You can choose to help people, but no one is forcing you or taking things away from you that you have earned. Every individual has equal opportunity to be rich, and this is the heart of capitalism.
The bailouts of the banks in America was not capitalism. It started off as capitalism, with banks taking risk and making their own decisions, and that's all fine, but it turned into something else entirely. Corporatocracy. And Michael Moore makes the mistake of using the terms capitalism and corporatocracy interchangeably.
Does capitalism lead to corporatocracy? Maybe. But does this mean we should be blaming capitalism for what happened in America? No. Capitalism, as it was originally meant to be, is an economic system in which every man has equal opportunity to prosper. Capitalism allows innovation and creativity, and without it, society would be far less developed than it is today.
Michael Moore's Capitalism, a Love Story is a highly inaccurate representation of capitalism. Quoted by Karl Marx says, the writer must earn money in order to be able to live and write, but he must by no means live and write for the purpose of making money. Karl Marx expresses the perspective of socialism, a perspective that Michael Moore would agree with. However, it seems that Michael Moore actually contradicts this perspective.
What is it?
The only reason I do well is because so many millions want to go see my movies. If they didn't like the movies, they would go see them, and I probably wouldn't be sitting here.
Making a product, people buying it, and you getting money for it? What economic system does that sound like?